always thought I'd be there on my son's wedding day. I imagined straightening his tie, dabbing away a tear as he said his vows, sharing that traditional mother-son dance at the reception. These were the moments I'd quietly anticipated since the day he was born, when I held his tiny body against my chest and whispered promises of unconditional love into his perfect ear. But life rarely follows the script we write for it. I found out about Michael's engagement on Facebook, not through a phone call or a visit, but through a status update and a photo of a diamond ring on a woman's hand I barely recognized. Kendra. I'd met her exactly twice. Once at a hurried dinner when they were passing through town, and once at a Christmas gathering where she spent most of the time on her phone. Both times, she'd been polite but distant, regarding me with a cool assessment that made me feel like I was the one being interviewed, not her. Still, I was happy for them. Michael deserved love and companionship, and if he'd chosen her, I trusted his judgment. I called him immediately after seeing the post, my voice warm with genuine excitement. "Congratulations, sweetheart, I just saw the news. I'm so happy for you both." There was a pause on the other end, just a beat too long. "Thanks, Mom." "Yeah, we're really excited." "Tell me everything. How did you propose? Have you set a date yet? Do you need help with anything?" Another pause. "We're thinking next spring, April maybe, and nothing too fancy, probably just something small." "Small is lovely," I assured him, "intimate and meaningful. Your father and I did the same thing, remember? Just 40 people in your grandparents' backyard. The photos are in that album I gave you." "Yeah, I remember." His voice softened slightly at the mention of his father, gone now for 6 years. "Listen, Mom. I've got to run, meeting with a client in 10, but thanks for calling. I'll keep you posted." Keep me posted. Weeks passed with no updates. When I called or texted to ask about wedding plans, his responses were vague and brief. "Still figuring it out, nothing definite yet, we're taking our time." Meanwhile, his future mother-in-law's Facebook page told a different story. There were photos of venue tours, cake tastings, florist consultations, posts about my beautiful daughter and her perfect day, and so blessed to be part of this journey. In none of them was I mentioned or included. I told myself not to read too much into it. Michael had always been private, even as a child. He probably just didn't think to include me in these preliminary plans. I would wait patiently, my invitation would come. Then one evening in late January, my phone rang. Michael's name lit up the screen, and I felt a surge of hope. Finally, some news about the wedding. "Hi, sweetie, how are you?" "I'm good, Mom. Listen, I'm calling about the wedding." His voice was measured, rehearsed. "Yes. I've been wondering how the plans are coming along. Have you set a date?" "April 18th. That's actually why I'm calling." I reached for a pen, ready to write it down to mark this sacred date on my calendar. "April 18th. Wonderful. Where will it be held?" He cleared his throat. "It's going to be at Kendra's parents' property in Vermont. They have this beautiful lakeside home and..." He stopped abruptly. "Mom, this is a little awkward, but I need to talk to you about the guest list." Something in his tone made my hand freeze over the calendar. "Oh?" "We're keeping it really small, just immediate family and a few close friends." "Of course," I said, still not understanding. "That sounds lovely." Another clearing of the throat. "The thing is, Mom, we've decided to limit it to, well, to only include people Kendra and I both have relationships with." I sat down slowly on the edge of my bed, the meaning of his words beginning to dawn on me. "I'm not sure I understand, Michael." He sighed, a sound that seemed to carry both frustration and relief, as if he'd been dreading this conversation but was glad to finally have it. "Kendra has never really felt comfortable around you. She feels like you judge her, that you don't approve of her, and to be honest, you two are just very different people." "Michael, I barely know her. How could I—" "It's just easier this way," he interrupted, his voice firm. "No drama, no tension. The day should be about us, about our happiness." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "Are you saying you don't want me at your wedding?" "It's not that I don't want you there, it's just complicated." He paused. "There won't be a mother-son dance or anything like that. The ceremony will be very quick, just the essential parts. You wouldn't be missing much." I pressed my hand against my sternum, feeling the rapid beat of my heart beneath. "I see. I hope you can understand, Mom. It's nothing personal." Nothing personal, as if excluding your mother from your wedding could ever be anything but deeply, intimately personal. When did you make this decision? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. We've been talking about it for a while. Kendra thought it would be best if I called you now, before invitations went out, so you wouldn't be expecting one. Kendra thought, not we thought, not I thought. The distinction wasn't lost on me. And your sister? Will she be there? My daughter Lily had always been close to her brother, despite their 5-year age gap. Lily and Derek are invited, yes, and the kids. He had the grace to sound slightly embarrassed. So it was just me then. Just the mother who had raised him alone after his father died. The mother who had worked 2 jobs to put him through college. The mother who had never missed a basketball game or a parent-teacher conference or a doctor's appointment. That mother wasn't welcome at her son's wedding. I could have argued, could have reminded him of all those sacrifices, all those years of unwavering support, could have demanded an explanation for why his sister's presence didn't create this supposed tension, but mine did. Could have asked what exactly I had done to make his fiancé so uncomfortable in the 2 brief interactions we'd shared. Instead, I said, I understand. You do? He sounded surprised, perhaps even a little disappointed, as if he'd been prepared for a fight I refused to give him. Yes, it's your wedding, Michael, yours and Kendra's. You should have it exactly the way you want. Thanks, Mom, I knew you'd get it. Relief flooded his voice. We'll send you pictures, of course, and maybe we can have dinner sometime after the honeymoon, just the 3 of us? That would be nice. My voice sounded hollow to my own ears. We said our goodbyes, and I set the phone down on my nightstand. Then I sat very still, watching the light fade from my bedroom window as evening settled into night. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply sat and breathed and tried to make sense of a reality where my only son didn't want me present on one of the most significant days of his life. When darkness had fully enveloped the room, I finally stood, turned on the light, and walked to my closet. From the highest shelf, I pulled down a medium-sized wooden box, its lid inlaid with mother-of-pearl in a pattern of lilies. It had been a gift from my late husband on our 20th anniversary, a place to keep memories and treasures, he'd said. Inside were the physical fragments of my life with Michael, the hospital bracelet from when he was born, the tiny blue cap they'd placed on his newborn head, his first lost tooth, a Star Wars Valentine he'd made for me in 2nd grade, high school graduation photos, the tie he'd worn to his first job interview, which he'd insisted on giving to me after he got the position. For luck, he'd said. I touched each item, memories flowing through me like water. Then I closed the box gently and returned it to its place on the shelf. The next morning, I called my lawyer. April 18th arrived, a perfect spring day with clear skies and a gentle breeze. I spent it in my garden, planting new roses and dividing perennials. I did not check social media. I did not wait by the phone for a last-minute change of heart. I simply lived my day, one breath at a time, soil beneath my fingernails and sun on my face. That evening, as darkness fell, I allowed myself a single glass of good whiskey, the same brand my husband and I used to share on special occasions. I raised the glass in a silent toast to the newlyweds, then drank it down and went to bed. Life continued its steady rhythm. Seasons changed, holidays came and went. Michael called occasionally, usually on my birthday or at Christmas, sometimes just to check in. Our conversations were polite but superficial. He never mentioned the wedding, and neither did I. It hung between us like an invisible wall, too high to scale, too solid to break through. I saw the photos eventually. Lily showed them to me when she visited a month after the ceremony. Are you sure you want to see these? She asked, her voice gentle, protective. I'm sure, I said, and I meant it. They were beautiful photos. Kendra was radiant in a simple white gown, her dark hair adorned with tiny white flowers. Michael looked happier than I'd seen him in years, his smile easy and genuine as he looked at his bride. The Vermont lake shimmered in the background of the outdoor ceremony. Lily stood beside Kendra in a pale blue dress, a bridesmaid's bouquet in her hands. Her husband and children were seated in the front row. It was a nice ceremony, Lily said carefully, very brief, like Michael said. You didn't miss much. But I had missed everything. The way his voice might have trembled as he said his vows, the look in his eyes as he saw Kendra walking toward him, the moment they were pronounced husband and wife, the taste of the wedding cake, the music of their first dance, the toasts and tears and laughter, all of it lost to me forever. I handed the photos back to Lily without comment. She put them away quickly as if they were evidence of some shameful act. "He asked about you," she offered, "during the reception." "Did he?" I kept my voice neutral. "He wanted to know if you were okay. I told him you were fine." "Thank you." Lily looked at me, her eyes, so like her father's, filled with a mixture of sadness and confusion. "I don't understand it, Mom. I've tried, but I just don't get why he did this to you." I reached for her hand. "It's not for us to understand, sweetheart. Michael made his choice. We have to respect it." She shook her head. "No, we don't. It was cruel and unnecessary. I've told him so. Please don't create tension with your brother on my account. Your relationship with him is important." "So is his relationship with you," she insisted. I smiled sadly. Apparently not to him. 2 years passed. Michael and Kendra bought a house in Connecticut closer to her parents. They announced they were expecting a baby, a little girl due in the summer. I sent a congratulatory card and a check, which Michael acknowledged with a brief thank you text. He did not invite me to the baby shower. He did not call to share ultrasound photos or possible names. When Lily asked if I would be allowed to visit after the birth, he told her, "We'll see." Their daughter Eleanor was born on a sweltering July day. I learned of her arrival from Lily, who had received a group text from Michael. I sent another card, another check, and a small handmade quilt I'd been working on since learning of the pregnancy. 3 weeks later, a thank you note arrived in the mail, formal, pre-printed with Michael's signature but not Kendra's. I did not ask to visit. I did not impose. I simply waited, the way I had been waiting since that January phone call, for my son to remember who I was, who we had been to each other, before Kendra decided I was too difficult to accommodate. Meanwhile, I lived my life. I traveled, something I'd always wanted to do but had postponed during the years of single motherhood and financial struggle. I volunteered with literacy programs at the local elementary school. I made new friends in my garden club and book group. I dated occasionally, though nothing serious developed. I was not unhappy. I was not lonely. I was simply learning to live without the future I had once imagined. A future that included grandmotherhood and family gatherings and the warm certainty of my children's love. When Eleanor was 10 months old, Michael called. "Mom, we're going to be in town next weekend. Kendra has a college friend's wedding. I thought maybe we could stop by, let you meet Eleanor." I gripped the phone tightly. "I would love that, Michael." "Great. How about Saturday around 10? We can only stay an hour or so. Eleanor needs her nap at 11:30. Saturday at 10 is perfect." I spent the week preparing. I deep cleaned the house, though it was already tidy. I bought fresh flowers for every room. I made blueberry muffins, which had been Michael's favorite since childhood, and stored them in the freezer to be warmed just before their arrival. I dug out a few of Michael's old baby toys from the attic, washed them carefully, and arranged them in a basket in the living room. When Saturday came, I was ready an hour early, dressed in a casual but flattering outfit, hair freshly styled, makeup subtle but present. I wanted to look like the best version of myself, though I wasn't entirely sure why it mattered. They arrived 20 minutes late. Michael looked harried as he carried the diaper bag and what appeared to be half of Babies R Us onto my front porch. Behind him came Kendra, Eleanor balanced on her hip. The baby was beautiful, dark curls like her mother, but Michael's clear blue eyes and dimpled chin. "Sorry we're late," Michael said, brushing past me into the house. "Traffic was worse than we expected." "No problem at all," I smiled at Kendra. "It's good to see you again. And this must be Eleanor. She's lovely." Kendra nodded, her smile tight. "Thank you for having us, and for the quilt. It was thoughtful." I led them into the living room, where I'd set out coffee and the promised muffins. Michael busied himself setting up Eleanor's portable playmat, while Kendra perched on the edge of the sofa, the baby still firmly in her arms. "Would you like coffee, or I have tea, juice, water?" "Coffee would be great," Michael said. "Just water for me," Kendra added. I brought their drinks and a sippy cup of water for Eleanor. The muffins are blueberry, your favorite, I told Michael. And I found some of your old toys in the attic. They've been thoroughly cleaned, I promise. Michael glanced at the basket of toys. Thanks, Mom, but we brought plenty for her. He gestured to the array of brightly colored plastic items now scattered across my living room floor. Of course, I just thought, well, it doesn't matter. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment before I tried again. She really is beautiful. I see so much of you in her, Michael. Everyone says she looks like Kendra, he replied. She has your eyes, and your chin with that sweet little dimple. Kendra shifted Eleanor to her other hip. Michael's mother had the same chin, it must skip a generation. The comment stung, a subtle reminder that I was not Michael's biological mother, that I had entered his life when he was 3, after his birth mother died and his father and I fell in love. I had adopted Michael legally when I married his father, raised him as my own from that day forward. He had called me Mom since he was 4 years old. No one had mentioned the distinction between us in decades. Would you like to hold her? Michael asked suddenly, perhaps sensing the awkwardness his wife had created. I would love to, if that's okay. He looked at Kendra, who hesitated before nodding. She passed Eleanor to me with obvious reluctance, as if handing over something immeasurably precious to someone not entirely trustworthy. The weight of the baby in my arms was both strange and familiar. I had held many children over the years, my own, my friends, those I worked with through volunteering, but holding my granddaughter felt different. She stared up at me with curious eyes, her tiny hand reaching up to touch my necklace. Hello, Eleanor, I said softly. I'm your grandmother. It's so nice to finally meet you. She babbled in response, a stream of musical nonsense that made all 3 adults smile. She's quite the talker, I observed. Gets that from Michael, Kendra said, and for once there was no edge to her voice, just the simple pride of a parent in their child. For 45 minutes we maintained this delicate dance. Stiff conversation, brief moments of warmth quickly followed by retreat, the baby passing between us like a peace offering. Then Kendra checked her watch and announced it was time to go. But it's only 11:15, Michael objected. We said we'd stay until at least 11. She's getting fussy. She'll need her nap early today. Eleanor, currently laughing as I played peekaboo with one of the cloth napkins, showed no signs of fussiness. But Michael was already standing, gathering toys and blankets. Thanks for having us, Mom. It was good to see you. I handed Eleanor back to Kendra, trying to memorize the weight and warmth of her, the smell of baby shampoo and the sound of her delighted giggle, storing these sensations for the long drought I knew would follow. Thank you for coming, for bringing her. She's wonderful. At the door, Michael hesitated. We should do this again sometime, maybe when we're next in town. I'd like that very much. But as I watched them drive away, I knew it wouldn't happen. Not unless something changed fundamentally in my relationship with my son and his wife. And I had no power to affect that change. 3 months later, I received a call from my doctor. The tests had come back, the diagnosis was conclusive. Stage 3 ovarian cancer. Treatable but serious. Surgery would be required, followed by chemotherapy. The prognosis was guardedly optimistic, but there were no guarantees. I told Lily in person, over dinner at my house. She cried, then rallied, immediately offering to move in with me during treatment, to take family leave from her job, to be my advocate and caregiver. That's not necessary, sweetheart. I've already arranged for home health care after the surgery, and Sharon from my garden club has organized a meal train. I'll be well looked after. But, Mom, your children need you at home, your job needs you, your life can't stop because mine has hit a detour. Will you at least let me tell Michael? He should know. I considered this carefully. You can tell him, but please make it clear that I don't expect anything from him. This isn't some manipulation to force a reconciliation. I just don't want him to hear it from someone else and think I was keeping it from him. She nodded, though I could see she wanted to argue. Michael called the next day. Mom, Lily told me. I'm so sorry. Is there anything we can do? The we wasn't lost on me. Even in this, Kendra was present, a silent partner in his response to my illness. Thank you, but no, I have everything arranged. Are you sure? I could come down for the surgery at least. I closed my eyes, picturing him sitting in a hospital waiting room, checking his watch, anxious to get back to Connecticut, to his real family. That's not necessary. Lily will be there. Okay, but if you change your mind, I'll let you know. He didn't press, I didn't expect him to. The surgery went well. The chemotherapy was brutal but effective. Through it all, Lily was my rock, visiting daily, managing my medications, arguing with insurance companies, making me laugh when laughter seemed impossible. My friends were steadfast, bringing food, taking me to appointments, filling my house with flowers, and my heart with gratitude. Michael sent a fruit basket after the surgery. He called once a week during chemo, brief conversations that rarely touched on my illness beyond a cursory "how are you feeling?" I didn't burden him with details, he didn't ask for them. 6 months after diagnosis, my oncologist delivered the news we'd been hoping for: remission. Not a cure. Ovarian cancer has a frustrating habit of recurrence, but for now, my body was cancer-free. The experience had clarified many things for me. Life was short, uncertain, precious. Relationships that drained me were no longer worth maintaining. Honesty was essential. Pretense was exhausting. I called my lawyer again. Mr. Abernathy had been handling my legal affairs for decades. He had drafted the will that now needed revising, had helped me navigate the complexities of Michael's adoption, had guided me through the financial tangle left by my husband's sudden death. He was more friend than attorney at this point, which made the conversation easier. I want to change my will, I told him, specifically the distribution of assets. Of course, he said, his voice neutral but kind. What changes did you have in mind? I want to remove Michael as a beneficiary. There was a pause. I see. May I ask why? It's complicated, but essentially Michael has made it clear that I am not an important part of his life. He's an adult with a successful career, a lovely home, a family of his own. He doesn't need my money. And if he were to contest the will? He won't. Of this, I was certain. Michael valued appearances too much to challenge my decision publicly, and despite everything, I didn't believe he was motivated by money. He simply wanted a life uncomplicated by a mother who apparently made his wife uncomfortable. Who would you like to designate as your beneficiary instead? Lily will receive the house and half of my financial assets. The other half will be divided between several charities: the literacy program I volunteer with, the cancer support group that helped me through treatment, the animal shelter where I got my cat. Mr. Abernathy made notes, then looked up at me. Are you certain about this, Margaret? These decisions can have long-lasting implications for family relationships. I smiled sadly. What family relationship? Michael made his choice when he excluded me from his wedding. I'm simply honoring that choice by excluding him from my will. Would you like me to include a letter explaining your decision, something for Michael to read after? No explanation is necessary. He nodded, accepting my decision without further comment. As we finished the paperwork, he asked one final question. Do you want to notify Michael of this change? I thought about it for a moment, remembering that phone call 3 years ago. It's just easier this way, Michael had said, dismissing my presence at his wedding as if it were a logistical problem rather than a profound rejection. No, I replied, a small smile playing at the corners of my mouth. He'll notice when the check doesn't come. Life has a way of continuing, even after moments that feel like endpoints. My cancer remained in remission. I returned to volunteering, to gardening, to book club and coffee dates with friends. I traveled more extensively now, checking items off the bucket list I'd created during chemotherapy when the future seemed both precious and precarious. Michael and Kendra had a second child, a boy they named after Michael's father. I sent a card and a gift, but was not invited to visit. Eleanor turned 3, then 4. I knew her only through occasional photos shared by Lily and the rare video call Michael initiated on holidays. Lily's children grew too, her son graduating high school, her daughter starting middle school. I was present for all of it: the band concerts, the science fairs, the football games, the dance recitals. I was the grandmother who baked their favorite cookies, who knew their friends' names, who FaceTimed to help with homework when their parents were busy. And through it all, I felt a curious peace. Not happiness, exactly. There would always be a Michael-shaped hole in my heart, but acceptance. I had done everything I could. I had loved him unconditionally. I had respected his boundaries, painful as they were. I had not begged or manipulated or guilt-tripped. I had simply mirrored the relationship he seemed to want. Distant, polite, superficial. The parallel was not lost on me. just as he had excluded me from a milestone moment in his life, his wedding, I had excluded him from what would be my final gift, my inheritance. An eye for an eye, perhaps, though it brought me no joy to think of it that way. But there was a fundamental difference between our choices. His had been made out of convenience, to avoid potential tension or drama that might spoil his perfect day. Mine was made after careful consideration of what our relationship had become, what value he placed on my presence in his life. I harbored no resentment, no bitterness. I had simply, finally accepted the reality of who we were to each other now, not who we had been or who I had hoped we would become. When the cancer returned 5 years later, more aggressive this time, I faced it with the same clarity. I declined extraordinary measures. I arranged for hospice care at home. I sorted through my possessions, giving special items to those who would treasure them. I said my goodbyes, not in grand emotional scenes, but in quiet moments of connection with those I loved. Michael came to visit twice during those final months. Brief, awkward visits where he stood at the foot of my bed, struggling to find words for a situation too real, too raw for the superficial relationship we'd maintained. During his last visit a week before I died, he finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Why did you cut me out of your will?" I looked at him, this man who had once been my little boy, who had once run to me with scraped knees and broken toys and nightmares that needed soothing. I could have lied, could have spared his feelings, could have pretended it was about the charities, about Lily's greater need, about anything other than the truth. Instead, I said simply, "It seemed fair. You cut me out of your wedding, I cut you out of my will, a mutual exclusion." He flinched as if I'd struck him. That was different. Was it? The wedding was just one day. This is my inheritance. Both were symbols of belonging, I replied, my voice weakened by illness but my conviction strong. Both represented inclusion in what matters most. You decided I didn't belong at your wedding. I decided you didn't belong in my will. Mom, that's not... It's okay, Michael. And strangely, it was. We make our choices and we live with the consequences. I've made peace with yours. Now you'll have to make peace with mine. He left shortly after, troubled and confused. He didn't come back before the end. After I was gone, after the simple memorial service I had planned, Mr. Abernathy gathered the family for the reading of the will. Michael sat stiffly beside Kendra, their children left at home with a sitter. Lily and her family filled the other side of the table, their grief still raw and visible. As Mr. Abernathy read the terms of my will, I imagined Michael's face. The slight widening of the eyes, the tightening of the jaw, the quick glance at his wife. I imagined him sitting there, feeling what I had felt that January evening 3 years ago. The sharp sting of exclusion, the hollow ache of being deemed unnecessary. Not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, but out of a simple, final equity. A closing of accounts, a balancing of the scales. In the end, what mattered most wasn't the money or property I left behind, it was the lesson embedded in my final decision, that relationships are reciprocal, that belonging is mutual, that the ties that bind us, even those of blood and history, require nurturing to remain strong. It was a lesson I hoped Michael would carry forward, perhaps into his own relationship with his children as they grew, a reminder that the choices we make about who belongs in our most significant moments echo far beyond those moments themselves. And perhaps in some small way, it was also a gift, a final maternal nudge toward self-awareness, toward recognition of the impact our choices have on those who love us. A reminder that in the end, we are not measured by what we accumulate, but by how we have loved and been loved in return.